behold, 42 identical HQ Holdens over 10 laps of the 2-kilometre shortened Eastern Creek Circuit.
Yes, I'd say at least 3 wide into the first corner, and then look after yourself and make your own arrangements at the second corner.
It's no buddy-buddy situation here. I mean, it's a, hey, as Alan said, look after yourself. And if you're not old enough to look after yourself, you best get out of the way, because there's some other boys coming.
HQ racing began in Australia maybe 5 or 6 years ago as a very inexpensive way for people to really enjoy themselves in motor racing. In those days, you could buy an HQ for a couple of $1,000. By the time your race prepared it may be worth $5,000. Today, Alan Grice, it's become a little bit more professional.
Yeah, what's happened was it started off as being an excellent nursery class, and I still believe that it really is. However, some of the old brontosauri that are from around motor racing annuals that are around the country have come back, and they've said, well, this is a cheap way to have a bit of fun. Come back, gone for the extra horsepower, spent the money, and of course now they've made it a more expensive nursery class with a lot of young kids and a lot of brontosauri.
In other words, what you're saying, these cars were founded in a daycare situation.
Here we go. We're about ready for a start. On pole position is Peter Knight in the Holden. Alongside him in the red car is David Wood, also in the Holden. Curious about that, isn't it? The green flag waves, and they're away. Peter Knight, just holding onto the lead as a car ducks out of the slipstream on third row of the grid, but it's Knight who slams across the lot of them, takes the lead with Peter Wood in second, David Wood rather, in second position.
And the pole center's got a lovely jump. He's timing those starts very, very well. Now this corner is going to be something to look at.
As they bunch up. Now we're single file through the front 3 at the moment. And Knight, as Alan said, 3, maybe 4 wide.
There's 5 I can count there, Bill.
There's no room for 5. They got to go off into the grass, no doubt about it, off the race course.
If only we could bring back the guy that actually designed the HQ Holden and let him look at what he's done to the world.
Oh, there's one around there. Kindly by the looks of it.
That's exactly right. And they tried to go 4 wide. There was no room there. And
well, they've got to be 1 wide going into here, or there'll be a lot of strife. Well, they've slowed right down for it.
That's a Sydney traffic jam. During rush hour traffic, trying to get through that little chicane there. But as you said, John, 42 HQs out there ready to battle, and that's a full field plus 2 provisionals.
Some of these cars have actually still got the flagfall meters on them, you know.
Frustration for the drivers up the back, of course, because it is really slow now, because they're being slowed down. As Peter Knight, however, with a clear track in front of him, flashes by with a first lap of just on 1 minute 22 seconds. And that's not bad going at all.
Look at him coming off the hill. Now, if that don't look like everybody trying to get out of the church parking lot at once, I've never seen anybody hurrying home for Sunday dinner. But that's what that looked like as they came out of turn number 12 down the hill. Everybody was headed for some fried chicken or some Australian grain-fed beef.
David Wood is in second position. Will Cook is in third. Ben Walsh in fourth. Tim Dumbrain in fifth. Whoa. Hey, was in fifth.
Locked the rears up.
4, that's John Agosta.
Yeah, held it well, though. He held it well.
There's actually dust up there now. Not mud, dust up in those corners.
Colin Passfield has been.
Now, here's
back to the leaders.
Here's where you cross the fingers. This is that dangerous part of the track. There's a great bunch of them coming along. Is there anything but 1 wide? There could be yellow flags and a lot of strife. But I think they've learnt from the first race. They're a lot more steady. They're playing a lot more
adjusted now.
Yeah, see, they're a bit worried about the panel damage, and they've got every right to. The nation is running out of panels for HQ Holden.
Well, indeed, that's exactly right, to the degree now that there's a Ford Falcon race series about to be started by Bob Jane at his Thunderdome in Victoria, simply because there are not too many parts remaining for racing HQ Holdens. So the answer is start a Ford race as well. Then the next answer is let's put the HQs and the Ford Falcons together.
That's kind of smart on Bob's part, because hey man, what a race that would be. You put them together in a series of their own. You're gonna have 92 of these guys at one time, John.
Yeah. I hope this trend doesn't continue, though. We'll finish up with Wolseley races.
For sure.
Peter Knight is driving the car that won last year's HQ Championship at the Calder Thunderdome. Right behind him is David Wood. There's less than 0.2 of a second between these 2 cars as they crossed the start-finish line last time.
We've run, we're working lap number 3. Knight is our leader. Wood is second. That's David Wood. In third is Will Cook. Riding fourth is Ben Walsh. 5th would be the Tim O'Brien car. 6th is Andrew Wilson. 7th is the Bob Hepburn car. 8th would be Russell Becker. 9th is Larry Gatt. And in 10th, rounding out the top 10, is John W. Harding in car number 70. Those are your top 10 at the end of lap 3 in this HQ event.
Will Cook now really starts to pour the pressure on David Wood in 2nd position. Ben Walsh a little bit further back in 4th, but this is the race now between these two cars, car 18 and car 66 right behind. As Peter Knight opens a handicap of, I don't know, Alan, at least a 2nd.
Yes, it's about as much as there's been in this race. But it's interesting that those two orange cars are handling quite differently. The David Wood car seems to be set up sitting a lot firmer than the Will Cook car.
Well, the split time is .485. 1/1000th of a second. Now that is not a whole lot of separation anyway you look at it, guys. Here. Eastern Creek on a delightful weather-wise Sunday afternoon. What would you say, about 25, 26 out there?
Yeah, and the good news is too, as we see another one go off at that turn 2, the hard left-hander. That's 91. And
Michael Hickey.
thank you.
Michael's not sure he wants to come back on the course right now, too, John, because he went so far out into the field. He got it turned around about the tires, and now he's going to let traffic come by and come back onto the course here at Eastern Creek. Good battle right there for 2nd and 3rd.
Yes, it is, and we'll see how we go for the slipstream down the straight, because I think, well, it looks like Wood has that little bit of extra power, because Will Cook was certainly came out of that corner well enough to slipstream him, but it's not happening.
Slipstream almost seems a contradiction in terms when you're talking about HQ
Almost
Holden.
so, yes, but Wood certainly pulled away from him there.
But you still got that little air tunnel right there, and that's what they're, you guys refer to it as slipstringing.
Yes.
We call it drafting in America, and it's that wind tunnel. Alan Grice has been calling that American wind tunnel a number of times. You could have 1 through 19 cars running like these HQs, and there's a tunnel of wind right over top of them. Don't get out of that line, right,
Yes,
Alan?
exactly. It changes the handling of the car. And that it doesn't have that sort of effect with these cars that are so similar and not anywhere near as fast in speed. But it certainly is there. There's certainly better to have somebody in front braking, punching a hole in the wind.
Up over the top of the dog leg, and it's the two red cars again, David Wood and Will Cook, 2nd and 3rd position, who really are the dice of this race, up the front at least. Behind, and a long way behind, I've got to say, quite a number of races occurring for the monitors. There's some of it happening there.
Well, there's a spin right there, and I'm trying to get that car. It's car number 97.
That's Alan Bond.
Alan Bond, he's showing a little bit of front end damage too, like he's gotten into somebody there, but a safe spin right off the course here at Eastern Creek, and Bond is right back into it. He's been tapped on the rear deck.
There we go. That's what happened. He came up to the inside, thought he'd have a bit of a go, put his boot into it,
Tap,
and
yes.
simply just smoked up the bags, and around he went.
A few taps there too, a little bit of the traffic. Nobody doing it any abrupt way, but there was a lot of traffic in that corner when he ran around. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
There's that battle for 2nd and 3rd you're seeing on your screen at home, ladies and gentlemen. David Wood and Will Cook, the 18 and the 66. Those are the red, yellow, orange, and blue looking numeraled automobiles. You can color them up any way you want to, but they are kind of red looking, but they got a little blue and a little orange and yellow decked in there too.
I'd suggest to you by the end of this race there could well be a little bit of the red and the blue on each of the cars from both of them. Because they're going to be getting a bit tighter.
There's a tight battle between the...
well, that's the race leader coming up, in fact, to lap car 95, Shane Cowan,
who was a back marker. So Peter Knight picks off another lap car in this 10 lap. We're over halfway. We're working the 6th lap of competition. 5 laps put us at the halfway point. Now we're going downhill, as it's Katie bar the door in the HQ Holden finals, because when you start the downhill grade, that's the grade towards the barn and towards the paycheck too. They are actually running for that big bonus money. This is their pay dirt event. these guys are putting on a phenomenal little show out there.
Peter Knight's got a nice, comfortable brake now. He's obviously got his car very well set up for here. He's got good, strong power. He's driving very smoothly in this race.
Well, this is the car that Paul Fordham won the championship in last year. It's owned by Gary Rogers, the Melbourne enthusiast, who is also running Jim Richards. No, yes, he is. He's running Jim Richards in Oscar here this weekend.
Yes.
Running Paul Fordham, of course, in Oscar as well. Runs Jim Richards' son as well, young Stephen, in Formula Ford racing in Australia. So Gary Rogers is a one-man band, really, when it comes to propagating the racing careers of a number of Victorian racing drivers.
I'm glad to see Valvoline so heavily involved over here in Australia. I see a number of Valvoline cars, whether it be HQ Holdens or NASCARs or Oscars. I'm just glad to see Valvoline back heavily involved with the Thunderdome and Calder Park, NASCAR, Oscar, HQ, in all types of racing over here, Alan.
Yes, they've got a big racing program. They've chosen not to go with Group A. It's such an expensive class, and they're finding that they can get much more coverage and be involved in more cars as far as these categories are concerned, and I think it's good value.
Were these cars at one time the best taxi cab or the best kept secret in Australia?
There's no question that these have been an outstanding taxi cab in the history of taxi cabs in this country, Bill.
I had heard that when coming to Calder Park one year in the Thunderdome and seeing the HQs. Whoa, we got cars pulling off into the grass, pulling off into the...
Look at the debris that's been knocked over.
There's
a sign knocked over and a braking marker there.
A ton of them. Anyway, I'd heard that about these cars in my first trip to Australia.
Well, I've got to say that Peter Knight at the moment is adding to the records that are being established here at Eastern Creek this afternoon, because he's just opened a gap of 3.1 seconds on second place David Wood, and that's pretty much an unheard of split in HQ racing. For some reason or other, Knight is just charging away with this event.
2.5 laps to go here at Eastern Creek for the HQ Holden cars, and here's your rundown for those of you at home. The top 10, Peter Knight is in the lead. David Woods rides second. Will Cook is third. Ben Walsh is in fourth. Fifth is Russell Becker. In the sixth spot, Tim O'Brien. Seventh is Bob Hepburn. Eighth would be the Andrew Wilson car. Ninth would be Maiden Ivers, and in 10th spot now is Larry Gatt. Larry Gatt in 10th.
Knight now in lap traffic, and this is a danger, isn't it, Alan Grice? Always watch out for the lap traffic, because that's when you can get yourself into real trouble.
Yes, it certainly is. Particularly you come up behind a couple of cars that are being lapped. They're very tightly engrossed in their own battle. They're racing for whatever position they're at. They're concerned about each other and not what's coming up in their rear vision mirror. It's always a time to be a little careful and to pick the right place to get past the lap cars.
Might tell the fans as we're winding down in this one, John, that out of the NASCAR first 20 lapper, it looks like we might have lost maybe, just maybe, one car. The rest of the 23 out of 24 will be starting in that NASCAR event coming up in just a few moments.
So much for the soothsayers of doom, who suggested we'd lose at least 25% of the field in the melee that was supposed to have occurred. It's in fact, an excellent situation in the standard of driving of the competitors, that they managed to keep them all together.
Be the white flag next time by for the leaders. We have completed 8, working lap number 9 in this 10-lap event here at Eastern Creek for the HQ Holdens. So guys, unless something bar any complication or aerodynamically engine-wise, there's the white flag to Peter Knight. David Woods and Will Cook just coming by. They get the white, so we're down to it. Final lap.
Yeah. David Wood now opens quite a handy little gap on Will Cook. It's about 1.3 seconds, but in HQ racing, that's a huge gap indeed.
It all happened in 2 laps also, John, I'm sorry, in 2 corners too. He just got a couple of bad balks right at that time, lost his rolling speed, and these cars don't have a lot of power, so it takes a while to wind them up again. Mind you, don't have a lot of power. They are still going at least 10 miles an hour faster than the man ever designed them to do.
Well, I'll tell you what, not only with Alan Grice and John Smells, I'm Bill Cannell, and it has been a delightful afternoon thus far of racing here at Eastern Creek, guys.
Did you see that? Knight had both wheels off the deck as he came over the flip-flop.
He did that, but remember, gotta save those tires. You guys like to breathe them over.
Keep the air around them, Bill. Keep the air around them.
It looked like the leader has got himself just a smooth little grind around this final corner. Now he'll start the downhill fall.
So here we go. Just the main straight remaining. You can put it in neutral coast from here. David Wood, in fact, is starting to close the gap from behind, but far too late to be able to do anything with it. And it's Peter Knight who will almost now cross the line and take the HQ Holden final here at Eastern Creek, and he does so 5.41 seconds in front of David Wood, with Will Cook in third position. Ben Walsh will go through in fourth.
And in 2 weeks, you'll see him on the high banks and the G-force and all of that down at Calder Park in the Thunderdome for the big Christmas race. 2 weeks from
December 4 and 5 at Calder Thunderdome is a venue and a time that you wouldn't want to miss, because that'll be the third round of the OzCar and NASCAR Championship Series, and of course you'll see these cars drafting each other. Drafting, Bill?
Drafting.
Thank you.
You did good.
Fine.
I'm proud of you, Joe.
Yep. On the Thunderdome, and that's a sight to behold. 42 of these cars, plus a few more that didn't make it up to here at Eastern Creek. That's your race leader and race winner, Peter Knight, in the Valvoline Holden.